Hello everyone, my name's Andy Nelson and I'm the Engagement Officer in Cornwall, and today I'm going to do a short video on how to set up transects and fixed point locations in the website that sits behind the Dynamic Dunescapes app. So when you look at the app, there are 6 survey types and 3 of those are fixed point surveys: the photography, the vegetation quadrats and the water table depth. So we'll look at how you set up a fixed point survey. There are 2 survey types that use transect, so that's the dune profiles and the zonation mapping. So we'll look at how you set up a transect too. The 6th survey in the app doesn't need set locations, so that's not relevant to what we're doing today. So if you log into the Dunescapes website behind the app, this is the home screen that you see. And if you want to set up sites, then you go to Dune Sites tab. You go to the Dune Sites tab, you'll see a map showing all the sites and a big list, and you need to find the one that you're interested in. So for what I'm doing today, I'm going to use Gwithian, Mexico Towns, one of the 2 sites that I work at, and click on Set Up Site. Now, if you haven't put anything into this yet, you won't see a list here, but once you do start adding sites, this list builds up and you've got an ID number, which is not something that I really worry or think about. You've got a name column, and it is worth thinking about how you name your sites, your locations, because it can get a little bit complicated once you start getting lots of locations in this list. So a good naming system might be useful. Then it gives you the type, whether it's quadrats or transect or whatever. There's a grid reference column, which is not always grid reference, actually. Most of these are latitude, longitude. So you can usually decide whether you want to use a grid reference or latitude and longitude. So the final column is actions, and there's an edit button there. So once you've set something up, it's very easy to go back in and edit it or even delete it. So that's quite good to know that nothing is set in stone. Everything's very easy to change. You also have a map showing your site. So there's a sort of orangey, really orangey color boundary line. You can zoom in if you want to see things more clearly. You can move around using these buttons, or you can click and drag and hold. So here you can see some of the transects and fixed points that I've set up already. If you want to change the background of this map, you can click on this plus symbol here, and there are 3 map types to choose from: the Google Satellite Imagery, OpenStreetMap, or this Open Topo map. So I think they all have different uses. I mostly have been finding I've been using the Google imagery because it shows things like blowouts and stuff like that, which gives me a few more reference points. So if we want to add a transect or add a fixed point, we use these buttons here. So let's start with a fixed point. And what I'm going to do is add a fixed point photography location, but it would be pretty much the same process for any of the 3 fixed point surveys. So here's the form we need to fill in. First of all, we're going to give it a name, and I'm going to put a point in at Upton Towers, and it's where there's going to be some notch cutting. So I'm going to call this Upton notch cutting fixed point photo. And then there's a group menu. So this will be blank when you first come to it, but you can type in some group names, and then once you've typed in a group name, it will be added to this list. So far I've created 2 group names. So Towers fixed point photography, that's the one I'm going to put this Upton notch location into. And then we have location type, and this is where we're selecting which of the survey types it is. So like I said, 3 fixed point survey types. This one is fixed point photography, so just select that one. File upload, I think you can add images into this one. I know you certainly can for transects, but that's not something that I've done yet, to be honest. And then we get to telling the website where they're going to be. So this spatial reference menu here, we've got two choices, British National Grid or that long. So you can do it either way, or you can do it using either of these systems if you like, and there are different ways you can do it as well. So there's a map down here, again showing the outline of the sites. And if I zoom in, I know from what I was looking at before that the work that's going to be done, the notch cutting work, is around this area here. So if I want to add my fixed point photography in, what I can do is find the point I want it. I want to put it here, I think, and just click on the map. And then that adds a little square. And if I go back up here, I can see that's added in the grid reference for that square. Now that's quite easy, quite useful. One of the downsides is that it's not that specific at this point. I suppose it's useful to find, if there's a post there, for example, that would help you to find that post. But if there was no post, it's still a little bit vague, but it's quite easy, so that's good. But what I'm going to do is show you another way, which means that you can get a bit more specific with it. So I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to choose the decimal that long as an alternative way of doing this. And I've done this using Google Earth Pro to help me set up the transect locations and the fixed point locations. So if I open up Google Earth Pro, I've been adding things in here after chatting with the site leads to see what they're doing, where they want things. And this is where I've marked where the notch cutting is going to take place. This is the transect location. So this is a profile transect we're going to put in that will hopefully show the changes in the profile here. And then this point here is where I want to put the fixed point photography. So if you add pins in to Google Earth Pro and then right click and select properties, you'll see the latitude and longitude displayed of that specific location. Now these need to be decimal lat longs, and if they're not, which they won't be if you haven't changed it, so if you first go to Google Earth Pro and do this, they won't come up as decimal. You'll need to go into Tools, select Options, and then there's this area here that's got Show That Long, 5 choices. So you need to make sure decimal degrees is selected and click OK. So then when we go to our, we're doing fixed point photos, aren't we? There we go, go to that one, select properties, there's my latitude and longitude. So what I tend to do is copy that, go back to the web page and paste that in there. Now, if there's a degree symbol, you need to get rid of that. And if there are spaces like there is here, get rid of that as well, because it doesn't like them very much. And so we just want the figures and a comma, just as down here, figures and a comma, and then we'll find the longitude figure to go with that. So there we go, copy. Now, when you come away from this, having not finished this, it doesn't like it very much. So it'll say the map reference is not recognized. That's okay because we haven't finished it yet. So we just paste latitude figures there, click off that, and hopefully that location, yeah, it's now been updated down here and it's a bit more specific as to where that point is. So you've got different options as to how you can do that. So we've put in our name, we've put it in a group, we've told it what, which of the survey types it is, given it location. Now we just click submit. Hopefully, if we have a look, here we go, up to notch cutting fixed point photo, that's now appeared on our list. And just to double check, put it in the right place. Yeah, there it is, showing as an orange dot on the map. So that's great. So that's the fixed point added in. We can do very similar thing for our transect, add transect. So I'm going to call this Upton notch cutting, and we're going to do a profile transect. And like I said, there's profile transect and there's zonation transects, and they come up in different colors on the map. So let's select profile. Again, you can add photos. I haven't done that yet, but that's something that might be useful. And again, we get to the point where we're adding our location in. And the easiest way is to set your latitude, longitude at the transect start, and then latitude, longitude at the transect end. And then once you've done that, it will give you a bearing, compass bearing for that transect, which is hopefully going to be really useful to people out in the field. And again, there are different ways you can do this. So if I want to set the transect start, I can zoom in to my location, and I know that it's, okay, this is where the transect's going to be. So I want to start it somewhere here. So if I click on the map, it gives me start latitude, start longitude, so that's great. I then want to set the end point, and that's going to go down through where the notch is going to be cut. And according to the manual, the transect should start, or finish at this end by the front of the dunes, 5 meters that side of them. So if we're starting this end, walking till we get to the end of the dunes and the start of the beach, it should finish about 5 meters the other side. So I'm going to put my point, it's roughly there, and it immediately draws the transect. It's got the latitude, longitude, and it's got the bearing in there as well. So that might be job done. However, I don't think I've got that in quite the right place. I don't think it's quite what I had in mind. It's almost there. So again, I was finding it useful to use Google Earth. Obviously, like I say, not essential, but I can do the same thing. I put a pin in at the transect start and transect end, and I've played around with these a bit more to make sure that they're in the right location, because I know where the notch cutting is going to happen. I've kind of measured this, so it's about 5 meters from the start of the dunes. And oh yeah, I should show you that now. There's a little ruler tool here. So if you want to measure distances, you can select the ruler tool, click, draw a line, click again, and it will give you that distance. You can also use this for angles as well. So for example, our transects ideally are running 90 degrees to the front of the dunes. So if I draw a line that roughly follows the front of the dunes like that, it will give me the angle in degrees. So that's about 40 degrees. So then I know that my transect needs to be at 90 degrees to that. So that's quite useful when it comes to setting them up. Anyway, where were we? We were finding the location of the transect start. So I put a pin in. So right click, properties, and here's my latitude and longitude again. So I'm going to copy that just like I did before. And I need to go back to set the transect start because I'm changing the start location. And I'm just going to paste that again, get rid of the degree symbol, get rid of the space, just overwrite it. And every time you change something here, it will change on the map. So it's very easy to make changes to things. So don't worry about getting things wrong, because you can just go back and do them again. So there's my start latitude, start longitude. So now that is in the same place that I had it on Google Earth. Transect end, just do the same thing again. Right click, properties, Copy that to there, ID it up, longitude, right, click away from that, and again there you see that's moved that to the location I wanted. It's changed the bearing, so that's now at right angles to the front of the dune, so that's ideal. I know it's not absolutely 100% necessary, but that's what we want ideally, so that's quite useful. Now that bearing, what I've been doing with that is also adding it to the name, because when people are out in the field, I figure that might be useful to them as a reminder. So if you're stood at the start of the transect, wondering which way to go, and the name saying 310 degrees, if you've got a compass or a GPS unit or something, that's a good little reminder of which direction you should be walking in. So we've put everything we need into there, and we just go to submit. And hopefully that's appeared as well. There we go. So there's our fixed point photography, and there's our profile transact. And again, like I said, if you want to change anything, just come back to edit, change any of this stuff. And if you just got it completely wrong, you can just delete and start again. Okay, so that's everything. I hope that's useful, and good luck with it all. And thanks for watching.